The 2022 season is upon us, and Georgia has released its media guide. And this is something that obviously happens every single year. In years gone by, these were printed. All of the leagues, all the schools in the league would give them out at media days. I stopped getting my allotment of SEC media guides somewhere around 2009 or 10 because they were just so heavy. And they started giving it out digitally, and that's really what Georgia's gone to. So, what can we learn from this media guide that we didn't already know? Well, the answer to that is usually not as much as you'd like, but they do have all of the players. I want to make sure I'm correct before I say this out loud. Yeah, they do actually have all of the players who are on campus now. They have numbers, which is different than in the past. So, like for instance, Tate Latledge is now number 69. That is a change, if I'm not mistaken. Drew Bobo is number 74. He was not on campus. He did not have a number in the past. So I mean, I've only looked at it briefly, not really a ton. Barry Alexander, we already knew was number 99. I always reference my chart. Um, so that's something to pay attention to, if you will. But uh, Marvin Jones is going to be number 7. So that I don't know that that was out there in the world, and it's possible somebody's already put this out there, and I'm unaware of it. I don't read I don't read what everybody writes, unfortunately unfortunately for me, I guess, because there are some good reporters on this beat. You know who you are. But this it just talks about what Georgia's getting into, 7 offensive returning starters. It lists only 5 defensive starters returning. I mean, and you're listing Latavius Brini as a starter that you lost. I mean, Latavius Brini didn't really play a ton um, at the end of the season. So Georgia is going to return a lot of guys. But anyway, just flipping through it, Georgia certainly has a style that they've embraced since Kirby arrived. Um, it really was in 17 where you saw the fonts and the graphics change from the way that Georgia has done things in the past. I mean, in the past, they would have a slew of players on the front. Now, the other thing before I say this, I'll warn you ahead of time. Sometimes the covers have there are multiple covers of a media guide. Um, that's probably somebody from Georgia calling to complain about something I've said already. No, I'm kidding. But this particular one that is online has Kyrus Jackson, Kenny McIntosh, and Chris Smith as the guys on the cover. I think, you know, those guys have been meaningful players, particularly Chris Smith. And that normally goes to older guys who have been around the block for a while. Take advantage while you can. Uh, we're running out of these magazines, to be sure. I just sent some more in just now. Picking up DAWGSTRUCTION gets you the 2022 preview. I have about 10% remaining of what I ordered of these, so that should tell you in a month how quickly they've gone. Order DAWGSTRUCTION today. You get the magazine today with it. If you just need the magazine, go ahead and pick up the link down below. It's also at Red Zone, which is I've detailed many times how to get there on Clayton Street. If you are a annual subscriber at Dog Post, you get this for free. It's coming to you in the mail. It will probably be shipped the week of August 15th. It will be there quickly. It's harder for me to ship it to everybody because we've got a lot of annual members. So, but that is on the way. Go to Dog Post now. We've got practice starting this week. You do not want to miss out on everything, but pick up the book and the magazine while you can. One thing that is always, Claude Felton and company do a good job of is talking about and it's tough because you're trying to recap a season and preview a season, and it's really hard to do that. But I'm going to read a couple things that his group has in here. He said the year after a championship, when the Bulldogs won a national championship in 1980, Georgia returned in 81 to go 10-2, which included a regular season loss to Clemson before being upset 24 to 20 to Pittsburgh in the Sugar Bowl. I wonder what the line was on that game because if Claude's writing it's an upset. Anyway, it also talks about Georgia owns the longest bowl streak in the country. It says Georgia ranks among the Bulldogs rank among the top postseason teams with 59 all-time bowl appearances. Georgia's gone to a bowl game or played in the college football playoff every year since 1997. So that was Kirby's uh, third season at Georgia. Of course, they missed in '96 with Donovan's first year. They go on to say the Bulldogs own a 35-21-3 record in postseason plays last season. Georgia knocked off number 2 Michigan and number 1 Alabama. I think y'all know what happened in those. The win over the Tide gave the Bulldogs seniors a 45-8 all-time mark. The 22 seniors, the 2022 seniors enter this season 35-4. They could destroy uh, the records mark for most wins. I mean, back in the day, if you won 40 games, that was a lot. We play 15 games now and 14 games in seasons. I mean, Georgia should play in 14 games. Here's another uh, talking point from Claude and them. And again, it's a media guide. It's a public relations move. It is to make Georgia look as good as possible. So here's one thing that they talked about. Georgia averaged 38.6 points a game, outscored their opponents 579 to 153. The Dogs' offense and special teams combined to score 6 touchdowns last season, 2 safeties, and blocked 8 potential points. Now, that's important, okay? When you think about what Jalen Carter can do blocking kicks, I don't know why he's so good at that, but he is. That mattered in the Alabama game. To some degree, that mattered in the Kentucky game at the end. Anyway, Georgia had 9 touchdown passes that covered at least 38 yards. JT Daniels, a 38-yarder to A.D. Mitchell. In the Carolina game, a 43-yarder in the South Carolina, Jermaine Burton. Stetson Bennett had a 73-yarder against UAB, a 71-yarder against UAB with Burton. Another one against UAB for 89 yards with Arian Smith. The Brock Bowers pass against UAB for 60 yards. A 60-yard completion to Ladd McConkey against Auburn. A 77-yarder to Bowers against Tech. A 57-yarder against Michigan for Burton. Another 39-yarder against Michigan to James Cook. And then, of course, the A.D. Mitchell touchdown that put the Dogs over the top. The amount of explosive plays, the only team that had more than 8 explosive plays against Georgia was Alabama in the SEC championship game. And surprisingly, 5 of those were runs. 5 of those were runs. And in no other game, just looking very quickly here, no other game did Georgia allow more than 3 explosive runs in one game. So the 7 passes, I mean, that's too many, but it was the runs that really hurt Georgia against Alabama. The longest run a season ago was the 67-yarder by James Cook that happened right after the Jalen Carter block field goal. The longest run was by Charleston Southern, a 34-yarder. The longest completion by the Dogs, an 89-yarder against UAB, the Brock Bowers play from Stetson, and then the 67-yard touchdown from Young to Williams in the SEC championship game. Those were the big plays on the offensive side of the ball. Well, they go into more detail, of course, in this thing. They do a very good job. I mean, it's hardly shocking. The other thing that Georgia did a lot of was, I talked about how they scored over 500 points. Almost a fifth of their points were scored by the defense. Coming off of turnovers, excuse me. So 94 points off 21 touchdowns, 21 turnovers. Georgia had 17 turnovers a season ago. Its defense only allowed 51 points. I went to the DeKalb County schools, Tucker High School, etc. But that's 43 points to the good. That's a blowout in your favor. Clemson had 2 turnovers against the Dogs, didn't score, Georgia got it 7 points in their turnovers. Now, Georgia should have won that game by more, but that was the deciding factor. 14 points off 3 touchdowns against UAB. UAB had 7 points in their turnover that they got. Carolina got 13 points, all 13 points on turnovers. Georgia got 14. 14 against Vanderbilt, 3 turnovers. Vandy with no points. Arkansas did not score. Vanderbilt did not score. Georgia got 3 points off of the one Arkansas turnover. That was just a beating. Kentucky and Georgia did not have turnovers in that game. It's kind of amazing. Georgia got 21 points against the Gators on 3 turnovers. Gators with their only 0.7 off of the 3 Georgia turnovers. Mizzou did not. There was 1 turnover in the entire game. Missouri had it. 3 points off that turnover. 14 points off of 2 Tennessee turnovers. That was a pretty decisive thing. Okay, if you think about it. So Georgia won that game 41-17. They had 14 points off of turnovers. Georgia didn't turn the ball over. Tech, no turnovers in that game at all. Tennessee, Alabama only got 7 points off 2 turnovers. Georgia didn't get any turnovers against Alabama in that game. No points off 3 turnovers against Michigan. Georgia had no turnovers. That Michigan game, I watched it the other day, at least part of it. That could have really gotten out of hand against Michigan. It just didn't. Obviously, Georgia was 7 points off 2 turnovers against Alabama. Alabama got 7 points off 1 turnover. So the 33-18, that's about right. I mean, that 2-score win, that was about what Georgia was better than Alabama. So I look forward to reading the crying from the Alabama contingent. I don't care. It doesn't bother me. I mean, I had Oklahoma people coming after me the other day, which is hysterical, talking about how people in the SEC are not known for their intelligence. Bitch, you're joining the SEC. What are you talking about? And are you really going to compare OU to Georgia academically? That's not a good comparison. So I'd probably keep it in the comments, bitch, as Dave Chappelle would say. This is real life. No, it's all fun, but it is interesting to read some of those things that Claude and them put together, because it does show that Georgia's defense mattered a lot, no question. I mean, how many more of those games would have been tight if the turnovers that Georgia had resulted in more points for the other team? Okay, that had made up 43 points. Maybe that wouldn't have mattered over a 15-game period. Maybe it would have. It also showed how explosive Georgia could really be on the offensive side of the ball. And this team is going to have to make it work on the offensive side of the ball. If we're all so smart out here in the media talking about these things, these guys are going to have to score. And if they don't, the defense is going to have to save them with a lot of guys with an alleged 3 starters returning. So I just there's a lot out there to be had for all of these guys, specifically Kendall Milton, who have not played a ton yet. They will get their opportunity. I mean, I haven't talked about Eric Gilbert in a long, long time. Maybe we'll talk about him sometime soon. Make sure you're picking up DAWGSTRUCTION. Make sure you're going to Dog Post and join the newsletter while you're at it.